You go down to the pharmacy, you pick something up over the counter, and it was...
For nearly 3 decades, Melinda Gates lived inside a carefully constructed public image that few people ever questioned. She stood beside one of the richest and most powerful men on earth, smiling politely in photographs, shaking hands with presidents and kings, and co-chairing the largest philanthropic foundation in modern history. To the outside world, her life looked like the ultimate partnership: wealth, influence, purpose, and a shared mission to improve the world. But in 2021, that image fractured in a way no one had predicted. When Melinda Gates walked away from her marriage, the shock rippled far beyond tabloids and business headlines. The divorce settlement, reported to be worth around $76 billion, instantly became one of the most expensive separations in history. Yet the money was never the real story. For years, speculation circled quietly around Bill Gates' behavior, his relationships, and his judgment. Melinda said almost nothing. She stayed composed, guarded, and silent. Then, in 2025, at the age of 61, she finally chose to speak. What she revealed reframed everything people thought they understood, not just about the marriage, but about the cost of standing beside power for too long. Melinda in French was born on August 15, 1964, in Dallas, Texas, into a household where structure and curiosity existed in equal measure. She was the second of 4 children, raised in a home that valued responsibility, education, and steady effort over flash or excess. Her father, Raymond French, worked as an aerospace engineer during the height of the Apollo program, contributing to the missions that put Americans on the moon. His work carried a quiet pride, the kind rooted in discipline rather than celebration. Her mother, Elaine, managed the home with consistency and warmth, shaping a family culture built on routine, accountability, and mutual support. They lived comfortably but never extravagantly. Money was managed carefully, conversations about planning for the future were normal, and every child was expected to contribute in some way. In the late 1970s, Raymond French made a decision that would quietly shape Melinda's understanding of independence. Knowing that college tuition for 4 children would be expensive, he began investing in rental properties on the side. What started as a financial strategy quickly became a family enterprise. By the time Melinda was 10 years old, she was spending weekends painting walls, cleaning apartments, and learning basic maintenance. These were not symbolic chores. They were real responsibilities tied directly to future opportunity. She learned early that comfort came from preparation, and that progress required collective effort. By 12, she was doing basic bookkeeping, managing numbers that most kids her age never encountered. She saw how planning created freedom, how small decisions accumulated into larger outcomes. No one lectured her about independence. She absorbed it through action. Around this same time, another quiet turning point arrived. Her father brought home an Apple II computer, one of the earliest personal computers available to consumers. For Melinda, it was unlike anything she had ever seen. At 14, she began using it to track rental records, typing commands line by line into a blinking cursor that responded only to logic. She taught herself basic programming, experimenting late into the night. The computer offered something rare, a space where effort directly produced results, where identity didn't matter, and where persistence was rewarded. In an era when very few girls were encouraged toward technology, Melinda found comfort and clarity in code. That relationship with technology would follow her for the rest of her life. Her academic path reinforced that direction. At Ursuline Academy, an all-girls Catholic school known for rigor, she thrived. The environment pushed students to think critically and aim high, and Melinda welcomed the pressure. Ursuline was among the first schools in Texas to integrate computers into classrooms, a move that further solidified her interests. Computer science classes were challenging, sometimes intimidating, but she leaned into them. She graduated in 1982 as valedictorian, not just with perfect grades, but with a growing belief that technology would shape the future, and that she wanted to help build it. She carried that momentum into Duke University later that year. The transition was jarring. In her computer science classes, She was often one of the only women in the room. The atmosphere was competitive and loud, dominated by students who spoke with confidence even when uncertain. In one early course, the professor introduced a programming language she had never seen. Self-doubt crept in briefly. Then she adjusted. She studied harder, worked longer, and refused to let intimidation dictate her limits. By 1986, she earned her bachelor's degree in computer science and economics. A year later, at just 23, she completed her MBA. Duke taught her resilience, adaptability, and how to trust her own thinking even when surrounded by louder voices. Her summers at IBM provided a glimpse into the professional technology world. The work was demanding and structured, offering hands-on experience with large teams and complex systems. She learned how products were built piece by piece and how collaboration determined success. IBM offered her a full-time position after her second internship. It was a safe path, prestigious and stable. But during her final interview, her manager offered unexpected advice. Consider Microsoft. At the time, Microsoft was smaller, less established, and riskier. The suggestion unsettled her. Still, she listened. She chose growth over comfort. In August 1987, Melinda French joined Microsoft as a product manager. She was 23 years old, newly graduated, and determined to contribute meaningfully. Her early projects focused on multimedia, an emerging area that blended technology with creativity. One of her first major successes was Cinemania, a CD-ROM movie guide that introduced users to interactive digital entertainment. Released in 1992, it sold over 200,000 copies in its first year and demonstrated how software could transform everyday experiences. That success helped her establish credibility inside a company known for relentless standards. She followed Cinemania with Encarta, one of the most influential digital encyclopedias ever created. Launched in 1993, Encarta combined text, images, audio, and video into a single interactive platform. By 1995, it had sold over 1 million copies and became a staple in homes and schools worldwide. Melinda oversaw every stage of its development, shaping not just content but user experience. Encarta reinforced her belief that technology, when executed thoughtfully, could expand access to knowledge. Not every project succeeded. Microsoft Bob, an attempt to make computers more user-friendly through a virtual house interface, struggled due to hardware limitations and was eventually discontinued. The failure was public and humbling, but Melinda treated it as a learning experience rather than a defeat. By the early 1990s, she had risen to general manager of information products, leading teams of over 100 people and helping Microsoft dominate the multimedia market. In 1996, she played a senior role in launching Expedia, an online travel platform that revolutionized how people booked trips. The idea that consumers would plan travel online was still unproven, but Melinda backed it. Expedia grew rapidly, eventually becoming a standalone public company and one of the largest travel platforms in the world. Her influence on that early strategy helped shape an entire industry. During these same years, she began dating Bill Gates. Their relationship remained private at first due to company policies. They married on January 1, 1994, in a small ceremony in Hawaii. Melinda entered the marriage with clear expectations of equality, negotiating a strong prenup that reflected her independence. Inside Microsoft, she continued working, earning promotions based on performance rather than name. By 1996, she faced a crossroads. She could continue climbing inside one of the most competitive companies on the planet, or step away to focus on family. She chose to leave Microsoft, closing a 9-year chapter that had shaped her professional identity. What followed was a gradual transition into philanthropy. The Gates Foundation began modestly, but grew rapidly. By the early 2000s, it had become the largest philanthropic organization in the world, funding education, global health, and development initiatives at unprecedented scale. Melinda's influence shaped its priorities, especially in women's health, education, and family planning. Trips to Africa profoundly changed her perspective. Seeing preventable diseases devastate families made statistics personal. She pushed global health to the center of the foundation's mission. Vaccination campaigns, maternal health programs, and education initiatives followed, saving millions of lives. Her work earned global recognition, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yet, behind the impact, personal strain was growing. Over time, Melinda became increasingly troubled by Bill's behavior, his relationships, and his association with Jeffrey Epstein. A meeting with Epstein in 2013 left her deeply unsettled. When she learned Bill continued to meet with him, trust eroded further. Investigations into workplace relationships and allegations intensified the strain. By 2019, the emotional toll became overwhelming. Panic attacks, nightmares, and a growing sense of instability pushed her toward therapy and self-reflection. She began divorce discussions quietly, long before the public announcement in 2021. When the divorce became official, it marked not just the end of a marriage, but the beginning of a new identity. In the years that followed, Melinda redirected her energy toward pivotal ventures, investing in women-centered initiatives across technology, healthcare, caregiving, and economic security. She stepped away from the Gates Foundation in 2024, choosing autonomy over shared legacy. In 2025, she published her memoir, speaking candidly about betrayal, healing, and the necessity of honesty. She described the divorce not as a failure, but as a decision rooted in self-respect. Appearing on national television, she spoke plainly about trust, therapy, and rebuilding life on her own terms. What emerged was not a woman defined by wealth or divorce, but one who reclaimed her voice after years of silence. Melinda Gates' story became less about standing beside power and more about stepping away from it, choosing clarity over comfort, integrity over image, and the difficult freedom of truth over the illusion of perfection.